When confronted with profound sorrow, human beings share a common, almost instinctual reflex. We try to minimize the pain. We pass it off as a minor inconvenience, pretending a massive blow is nothing more than just dust in the eye. This graph plots the psychological effort of our facade. A flat, stable line represents the calm emotion we project, while a sharply rising curve tracks the actual burden we carry in secret. Compounding weight degrades endurance until the internal mass fractures the structural framework. Treating deep trauma as a passing irritation does not dilute the pain. It merely guarantees that when your structural endurance finally fails, you will be entirely crushed by it. The collapse always materializes physically. The heavy timber you've been balancing on your shoulders slips, and your body hits the cold, hard ground. In the immediate aftermath of this fall, you find a dark, paradoxical comfort. The exhausting daily struggle to keep stumbling forward has ended. You don't have to grumble or pretend anymore. But resting in the dirt creates a secondary crisis. This is the isolation vacuum, the hollow psychological space created when your total collapse occurs in plain sight and bystanders do nothing. Your peers see the heavy beam pinning you. They murmur, they sigh, and then they maintain their pace and physically pass you by. As they walk past, their faces reflect their own discomfort. For the person on the ground, witnessing that guilt is devastating. It acts as quiet, visible confirmation that your situation is hopeless and that you will surely die there. The impact of the wood hitting your spine is agonizing, but crying out in despair, only to watch the people you know actively bypass your suffering, is what ultimately breaks the spirit. The cycle of despair breaks only through external disruption. A stranger arrives on the path and comes to a dead stop. Effective intervention rarely looks the way we expect it to. The stranger doesn't pause because they have a flawless speech prepared. They do not arrive with a complex rescue plan to solve the crisis. They search their heart for the right words, find nothing, and settle for the raw minimum, a micro-intervention. They lean down and offer a simple whisper of acknowledgement. Brother. That unpolished word acts like a beam of celestial light. Real rescue bypasses complex problem-solving. It begins the exact moment another human being refuses to look away from your pain. As the stranger begins to lead the way, the journey moves toward a specific mental state of safety. This road home is measured by the increasing distance between the victim and the site of their collapse. This diagram maps the mechanics of a sanctuary. It shows a protected interior zone blocking out chaotic data, leaving a space for rest. It actively deflects external pressures. Guilt, pity, and shame bounce off the boundary, creating an environment devoid of reproach. Once safely inside this perimeter, the collective effort begins. The people raising you up from the floor aren't pristine guides. They are the individuals still standing when they themselves have nothing left. Surviving the cold requires pulling oxygen into your lungs. Defeating despair requires integration into a community that has successfully removed the mechanism of shame. Those who are raised from the fall bear the physical and mental geography of that night. The fractures from the heavy timber remain visible, drawn in illuminated lines across the silhouette. But inside the inn, the context of those injuries changes. The marks cease to be evidence of weakness or a humiliating fall. Every scar becomes a recorded story of a night you successfully carried through. When individuals endure the absolute bottom and survive, they forge a communal resilience. They establish a new baseline, generating a steady internal fire that external frost cannot undo. The agonizing weight that nearly crushed the individual is ultimately repurposed. It forms the unbreakable foundation of strength for the entire group. This network visualization models how an initial spark of compassion scales. One central point ignites, immediately triggering a reaction in adjacent connections. The sequence cascades across the grid. Distributing the burden across multiple connections generates enough collective heat to overpower the surrounding darkness. You can observe the physical manifestation of this chain reaction. One light, then two lights, stubbornly breaking through the freezing rain. The isolation shatters entirely as separate individuals realize their connection, and every window in the valley begins lighting up again. Human biology and psychology share a hard limit. We were never engineered to carry the absolute dark alone. The architecture always fails. The morning is on its way, so hold on. Stop pretending the timber is just dust in your eye, and let the daylight finally find you. Because the true road home only opens the exact moment we surrender the illusion of solitary strength and accept the shared light of others.